The Second World War, a podcast by Stephen Bedard. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/hopesreason. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. When we look at the countries involved in the Second World War, countries like Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and Russia, we see most of the countries that were involved in European conflicts over the past number of centuries. But what about Spain? What was happening in Spain? Hitler really wanted Spain to join the Axis, but they never gave in. But that doesn't mean that Spain had no role. In fact, the influence of Spain was in many ways felt more before the war than during it. In this episode, we're going to look specifically at the Spanish Civil War, which was from 1936 to 1939, looking especially at how it influenced the war that immediately followed it. The Civil War began with an uprising that took place in July of 1936. There had been ongoing tensions within the country. The Republican government had concerns about the loyalty of certain people and removed some influential generals from power. One of these generals was Francisco Franco, who was removed from Chief of Staff to the Canary Islands. Some rebels, who were associated with the British Secret Intelligence Service, brought Franco from the Canary Islands to Spanish Morocco. It was from here that the uprising would begin. The rebels were known as the Nationalists, which were a conservative and right-leaning coalition of Spaniards. Those who fought to maintain the current government were left-leaning. This will help explain how various foreign groups got involved and what sides they picked, but we'll get to that soon. The Nationalists, led by Francisco Franco, had an advantage in terms of number of troops, but the Republicans held control of much of mainland Spain. Things would have been bad enough in Spain with just the conflict between the Republicans and the Nationalists, but there was also foreign involvement, and plenty of it. Adolf Hitler was more than willing to get involved in the war on the side of the Nationalists. Hitler's political leanings had much in common with Franco, and assisting him had the potential of bringing Spain on Germany's side in the coming war. Also, Germany had been very active in building their military and developing new technology. The Spanish Civil War gave Germany the opportunity to test their forces without prematurely entering into a major European war. The Condor Legion was put together, made up of volunteers from the Luftwaffe and the German army. 16,000 German citizens fought in the Spanish War. One of the opportunities for Germany in this conflict was to test out their Stuka dive bombers, which were essential for the later Blitzkrieg. Much of the early German victories in the Second World War were in part the strategic use of the Stukas, and it was in Spain that they were able to master its use. Hitler had a tightrope to walk in his involvement in Spain. This was an important experience that would benefit Hitler's military agenda, but he couldn't risk turning the Spanish Civil War into a major international war. Germany was not quite ready for that. Fortunately for Hitler, he was able to find that balance. It helped that the other nations were also unofficially involved, and they couldn't condemn Germany without pointing fingers at themselves. Germany wasn't the only Axis power involved in the conflict. Italy was also involved, something that Hitler encouraged Mussolini to do. Spain and Italy had much in common as southern European nations bordering on the Mediterranean. Spain could be a useful ally in Italy's, or more accurately, Mussolini's, plans for future expansion. Italy provided 50,000 men to fight on Franco's side. Italy could get away with greater involvement as the rest of Europe feared Germany much more than it did Italy. But it was not just the Axis that got involved. Support for the Republicans came from international brigades, groups of soldiers from other countries who fought without official permission of their governments. I mentioned that there were Germans and Italians fighting with the Nationalists. There were also Germans and Italians, those who were left-leaning, who fought with the Republicans. A number of European countries were represented in the international brigades, including the United Kingdom. The United States had its own international brigade known as the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. As a Canadian, I was surprised to learn that there were Canadians involved as well. Not only were some of the Canadians fighting with the American brigades, There was also a Canadian unit known as the Mackenzie-Papineau Battalion. This is a part of Canadian military history that is not often shared, and these soldiers are not normally honored the way participants in other conflicts are. The Soviet Union also provided support for the Republicans. They did this through the international brigades, but also through more direct involvement. The Soviets, who obviously supported the leftist Republicans, sent weapons and other supplies to aid in the conflict. Unfortunately for the Republicans, those supplies varied in quality. Also, the Soviet NKVD was active in covert operations within Spain. France was in a difficult position in relation to the Spanish conflict. They were next-door neighbors and were most likely affected by whatever outcome the Civil War would be. There were feelings of support for the Republicans out of fear of having another Nazi-like fascist state on its borders. Germany warned France not to support the Republicans, but some French support did take place covertly. I won't go into details about the Spanish conflict, as we are looking at it only as the background to the Second World War. I will say that the war was greatly affected by the British and French appeasement of Hitler in Munich in 1938, an event we will look at in more detail in a future episode. All we need to know is that this had a negative effect on the morale of the Republicans as they saw other European states unwilling to confront fascism. The Franco-led nationalists were very successful against the Republicans, especially with the help of their German and Italian allies. By February of 1939, both Britain and France recognized the Franco government over Spain. Republicans held out for a while in a few pockets, but were soon overwhelmed. Franco proclaimed victory on April 1, 1939. Captured Republicans were not treated with mercy, with many of them being executed. Perhaps 30,000 Republicans were executed. There were high casualties on both sides, and this likely played a part in Spain's unwillingness to join the Axis, despite Hitler's pleading. Spain was tired of the bloodshed, and Franco, despite all his faults, understood that Spain was not prepared to enter into a major European conflict. Despite Spain's absence of direct involvement in the Second World War, the Civil War did play a major role. The Spanish Civil War was the laboratory that the Axis, especially the Germans, were able to use to test their military technology. They perfected the strategies that would enable them to take countries like Poland and France through the use of the Blitzkrieg. A careful combination of air power, especially Stuka dive bombers, and ground forces would be the means by which Hitler would conquer much of Europe. Spain allowed Germany to work this out before they were officially at war. The Spanish Civil War ended in 1939, but Europe would have no peace. It would be in 1939 that the Second World War would begin, and Europe would never be the same. My recommendation for you is Hell and Good Company, The Spanish Civil War and the World It Made by Richard Rhodes. From the Pulitzer Prize-winning and best-selling author of The Making of the Atomic Bomb, the remarkable story of the Spanish Civil War through the eyes of the reporters, writers, artists, doctors, and nurses who witnessed it. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Come and visit me at the website, on Facebook at facebook.com/Second World War Podcast, and on Twitter at WW2_podcast. Consider supporting this podcast by leaving a review on iTunes or financially through patreon.com/hopesreason. Thank you, and God bless.